Okay, and I'm going to share a slide deck with you, just so I make sure I do all the things and don't forget any of the pieces. Um, Okay, so we're here today. I hope you're all here today to discuss volunteer mediator opportunities with conflict resolution services. If at any time you have any questions, please feel free to stop me, interrupt with your questions. That's fine with me. Um, and we'll go from there. Um, okay, about us. Conflict Resolution Services is an organization that practices what we preach. We are a diverse group of board members, staff, and volunteers who collaborate to provide opportunities for our community, neighbors, and families to come together to resolve conflict and strengthen relationships. We work with the courts to provide alternative ways to resolve disputes, empowering the parties involved to author their own solution rather than a judge deciding for them. And that is where the majority of our work is with the courts. We do offer services directly to community members, but most of our work does come through the courts. So what are the volunteer opportunities with us? Right now, we are in desperate need of mediators. And mediators in the state of Michigan are kind of divided into two categories, either general civil mediators or domestic relations mediators. General civil is kind of an all-encompassing bucket for pretty much any kind of dispute that isn't domestic relations. So domestic relations is divorce, child custody, parenting time, child guardianship, any of those types of situations. The majority of ours that we do here are divorce and child parenting time. Nearly every divorce filed in Grand Traverse County comes to our center for mediation. So general civil is pretty much everything else. There's a few very specific areas that require additional trainings, but general civil is lawsuits, small claims court, landlord-tenant, neighborhood disputes, nearly anything. So if it doesn't fall under, oops, I went back a slide somehow. If it doesn't fall under domestic relations, generally it qualifies as a general civil dispute. So in order to be a mediator for cases in the state of Michigan, you must have either the general civil or the domestic relations training. General civil training is a 40-hour training. It is a live interactive training. You can choose if you do it in person somewhere. There's a few different centers we partner with around the state of Michigan. Domestic is a 48-hour training because it also covers an 8-hour domestic violence screening protocol that we are required to complete for the state of Michigan. You've probably heard me say now multiple times, Michigan, Michigan, Michigan. Our center and our services are specifically focused on 6 counties in Northwest Michigan. That does not mean you have to live in those counties, volunteer, and mediate for us. However, your training will be specific to comply with Michigan law. So each state has different requirements as far as what it takes to become a mediator in that state. Some may accept your Michigan training if you're outside the state of Michigan, but you would need to speak directly with your local authorities about that if you are seeking to mediate from another state. Continuing on, uh, training doesn't stop at the formal training section. You are also required to complete 18 observations and a co-mediation. The only exception to that is if you have a Juris Doctorate degree or a social work degree. If you have either one of those, you only have to do 2 observations and 1 co-mediation. We, as an organization, are going to help you get those observations and co-mediations. So we provide you opportunities to complete those requirements through our center, if you're trained through our center. The cost of taking the formal training is roughly $1,000 a person. So that could be a little off-putting to all of you. So I see that Ellen has his hand up, so I want to mention one more thing. We can help cover the cost of your training if that $1,000 is a lot to you. Depending on your walk in life and where you are, that could be a big deal. So Ellen, go ahead.
Right. I was certified by the Florida Supreme Court in both family mediation and civil circuit mediation. I have a master's degree in conflict resolution, and I had a mediation business. Is there a way to get exempted from this training?
I can ask my contacts. I think they may be willing to work with you and let you take a shortened version, but I can't promise. So I would need to reach out on that special case.
Okay, and I've also had scores and scores of mediations that I've completed. So I just feel like that it would be very redundant for me to do training that probably I did in my first year of my master's program.
That does make sense. I would have to check.
Okay, thanks very much.
I mean, it makes sense to me, but I don't get to make all the decisions.
Okay.
So I mentioned we can cover the cost of your training. We can fully cover the cost of your training if you sign a volunteer commitment with us. That commitment is that you perform 12 mediations per year for a total of 2 years. So basically, you have to volunteer 24 separate times for us over a 2-year period, and in exchange for us providing not only the formal training, but also helping you get those observations and co-mediations. That being said, I am not the observation drill sergeant. I have a lot of other responsibilities running this organization. The commitment, we want you to volunteer for our center in exchange for us providing the cost of covering the cost of your training. Am I going to make sure that it's 12 per year, or am I going to like be up in your business if it's been 2 years and 3 months and when you finish those 24 total? No, like we just want to set forth the expectation that we're going to want you to mediate for us. The benefits of being a volunteer mediator. Satisfaction. It can be a great and empowering feeling to have 2 people walk in disputing rather adamantly, and to have them walk out calm and collected and with a written agreement in their hand, knowing you're going to keep them out of a courtroom going forward. It's also a great skill to add to your resume. There's several of you on here that look pretty young, like you're looking for those resume building pieces that's going to set you apart from competition, this can be a great one. As Alan mentioned, he had a mediation business in the past. That is also a possibility, and we won't do anything to prevent that, even if you receive your training free from us, as long as you're continuing to volunteer for us. In addition, the requirements needed to become a volunteer mediator through our center are the same as what it takes to be on the court roster. And that applies only to the general civil mediation. But you can be added to the court roster and build business that way so that you can actually earn money doing this. I have to warn you, it can be a very competitive market for mediators. So, go into it eyes wide open that you're not going to be a millionaire mediating, especially if you're in the Traverse City area where I am and our center is. It's very competitive and it takes a long time to build your reputation, but it's an option. So if I've hooked you and you're interested and I haven't, scared you away yet with the commitment level here, what are the next steps? So the first step would be that you tell me you want to move forward and I will send you new volunteer paperwork. That includes a background check authorization form so that we have to ensure that you pass a background check. It's a basic criminal background check. Then our volunteer handbook, which sets forth some very basic expectations that you're going to act in a professional manner when representing our organization. You're going to show up on time. You're going to follow the rules of mediation set forth by the Michigan Supreme Court. Those types of things. The last one would be if you're choosing to have us pay for your training, then there's that volunteer commitment form that you would sign. And then once I get all that back, your background, we run your background check and you pass, then we will help you register for training. We've partnered with the 16 other centers in the state of Michigan. So we have lots of opportunities for training, flexible dates and times. As I mentioned, those are live training events and you have to show up for the entire thing. So basically plan on blocking out the work week for that. Once your training is complete, then we will add you to our roster of mediators and observers so that you can pick and choose what works for you. The way we do things here is every time we have a mediation schedule, we send out an email to all of our mediators and observers that are approved for that case type. And you respond back if it works for your schedule. So in a week, you're probably going to get offered 8 to 10 different dates and times of mediations, and you just let us know if any of those dates and times work for your schedule, and you claim that. It's first come, first served. Go ahead. I don't know how to say your name.
Oh, sorry. My name is Poem, and
Okay.
thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. My question is, for the training session, do you have to attend in person in Michigan, or can it be done virtually?
It can be done by Zoom.
Okay, thank
But
you.
it's real-time training. It's real-time interactive training. So like it'll be set schedule, but you can do it via Zoom. And in fact, I took my training. I am a mediator for all types of mediation held through our center. And I took my training during COVID when virtual was the only option. Just recently have they started offering in-person trainings again.
Okay.
The majority of them are still held virtually.
And I had a second question, a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Once we get added to the roster of mediators, are the mediations conducted virtually as well?
Most of them, yes. So when an email goes out, it generally our case manager, she's the one that sends out these emails. She sends out more than one at a time. So like it'll be one email and it'll have 3 or 4 cases available. And so it'll give you the names of the parties as well as their attorneys. That way you can avoid a conflict of interest if you know a party. If you're not local to Traverse City, you're probably not going to know the parties, but that it gives you that information. It gives you the date and time of the mediation. We schedule, I would say 95% of the mediations are scheduled at either 9 a.m. or 1 p.m. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays with small claims court. Cases that we do every Tuesday, those you can pick. You can either do a 9 a.m. slot or a 1 p.m. slot, and those are multiple cases back to back, kind of rapid fire. That can be if you do the general civil training and you're looking to observe as many cases as possible, that can be a way to add them up very fast. If it's a collection case, basically it's companies using small claims court to collect on debts. We schedule those every half hour. So in a 3-hour time slot, you can conquer 6 observations if the parties show up, which can be great for getting to that 18 count very quickly. Other than that, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we generally do 2 cases a day, one at 9 a.m., one at 1 p.m. They're scheduled for 3 hours at a time, but I would say 75% of them take an hour or less. Though we do have some that occasionally run over, and at that point, it's the mediator's choice whether to continue or tell them they need to schedule for another session. So if the mediator decides that they think they're close and they think they're making progress and they want to continue, then it is up to them and they can continue that mediation. If they think that they're close, but it doesn't work for their schedule to continue, then they just report to us that we need to schedule a second session. Or they can own the mediation saying that, you know, they don't believe an agreement can be reached. Once you get through all of your observations and co-mediations, we will keep track for you of what your total is. And then once you reach your requirement, then you can mediate solo for us. I do want to mention that we are not going to throw you to the wolves and tell you have to mediate if you're still looking for more experience. We do have some people who just want more experience than what the 18 observations can provide. If that's the case, you can continue to observe and co-mediate until you're comfortable. Cameron, you had a question.
Yeah, lower the hand. Actually, I got 2 questions. I am local to Traverse City. We actually used to be kind of neighbors back when you were, I don't know, where the real estate office is now next to the former Ethan Allen. Anyway, we're in Garfield Courts. I'm with Michigan Indian Legal Services. My memory was back in the day, conflict resolution services, well, for one of the few domestic relations cases I handled, they were the low income option or the reduced rate option. Is that still the case where for people who are needing mediation through the county courts that you all offer reduced fees for the participants, that it's still more geared towards that community?
Correct. So in general, in Traverse City, Traverse City is, for those of you not from Traverse City is a pretty affluent area. However, every community has a lower income population or So we want everybody in the community to be a part of mediation and have mediation as an opportunity for them, or an alternative for them from the courts. So we do offer, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We are largely funded through a Michigan Supreme Court grant. Part of that grant is that we offer low fees, so we don't actually charge for mediation. We charge an administrative fee of $125 per party, which is roughly translates to what most paid mediators get an hour per party. In addition, we have me as the executive director, I have the authority to reduce fees to on a case-by-case basis. And third, we have a fee waiver policy. So if someone is receiving state assistance, the easiest and most common one we get is if they receive a bridge card for food benefits, we automatically waive their fees. There are also other criteria. We can do it based on income tax return, and it's 125% of the federal poverty guideline, if your income falls within that. Also, if you have a pro bono attorney, so that most likely in this area is you have legal services representation, you automatically qualify for a fee waiver. And I would say probably 35–40% of our customers do receive a fee waiver.
Okay. How long is, I guess, the certification or training good for? Is it only good for those 2 years, or is it something that lasts longer than that?
So it can last forever,
Okay.
as long as you maintain completion of advanced mediator training. So the requirement is to stay as an active mediator. You have to take 8 hours of advanced mediator training every 2 years.
Okay.
We can help you with that as well. We can cover the cost of that. We offer free opportunities. So we'll help you keep up to date on that, because it's much easier to keep a mediator than it is to train a whole new one, as I'm guessing all of you have now realized with the training requirements.
And I guess my third question is, does the volunteer work for your organization, or in exchange for the cost of the training, count for like pro bono hours that you guys would report to the state bar to meet, or do you guys do any of that sort of stuff for the pro bono stuff for attorneys?
We would be willing to, however, it is my understanding that the state of Michigan does not have a pro bono requirement.
No, but the state, well, it has suggested rules on pro bono, and they publish the list of whoever meets like their expectations. But I was just wondering, because like we report to the state bar who of our pro bono attorneys meet that expectation. And I was just wondering, because we really can't, with LSC regulations, do outside practice of law, but mediation wouldn't count for that because we don't have clients. So I was wondering if that would be a way for us to meet the voluntary pro bono requirement for not only myself but for other members of my staff. So I was just wondering if that was a potential. Okay.
We would be happy to report. I will figure out how to do it.
Okay.
Basically, we know that asking you to be a volunteer mediator for our center is a huge ask. It's not something for everyone. It's a lot different volunteer work than dropping into the soup kitchen to serve a meal. Both are needed, but we're asking for a lot bigger commitment. So we want to help you in any way that we can.
Okay. I think that answers my questions for now. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, that is all that I have prepared for you, but I set aside time because I want to answer your questions. So go ahead, Twin.
Yes, I have another question. Now, in regards to taking the training, is it exclusive, like we have to pick one or the other, or is it possible to be trained for both the civil mediation as well as the domestic relations mediation?
You can do both. I recommend you wait at least 6 months between the two because there's a lot of overlap, but you're required, if you want to do both kinds of mediation, to go through both kinds of training.
Okay.
We're happy to cover the cost for both if that's the path you want to take. And that's fantastic. However, there's a lot of overlap in the training. So I took mine about 6 weeks apart, and it was the second one was much more difficult for me to complete because there was so much overlap that it felt redundant.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions? Brittany, go ahead.
I was wondering, what's the turnover rate for mediators?
I wish I could say it's really low. We have unfortunately people that take the training and then we have to chase them to fulfill their commitment. That's very disappointing for us as a nonprofit. To have to chase people to get them to fulfill their commitment or compensate us for their training. Most people that become mediators with us stay mediators with us. We have individuals who have been mediating for 20+ years. We have lots that have been mediating for a shorter time than that. It's kind of addicting. It can be very rewarding and kind of a power boost to have the ability to help people resolve issues like that. It's a sense of accomplishment, and you're really going to feel it when you get your first agreement. It's just a great feeling to think, oh my gosh, like I took two people, like people in a divorce, to get them to come to an agreement on how they're going to parent their children and who's going to get who and divide their property. I mean, that's a lot of dispute and conflict to work through. So most people stay with it. They kind of come and go as far as how active they are as a mediator. We have some individuals who mediate, 2-3 times a week for us. That's fantastic. However, we realize a lot of people don't have that much flexibility in their schedule or availability in their schedule, and they might do a case a month or a case every other month. Once you reach that 24, we just ask that you stay active. Like if you can only do one a quarter, that's still one a quarter that we're getting covered. So if we don't ever want to have to turn anybody away because we don't have a mediator to cover it.
Thank you. I've got to spin this to my boss, so.
Cameron, you have another question?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Yeah, I ended up with another. Which side do you have a greater need in, the general civil or domestic relations in terms of lack of volunteers at this point?
Because we handle small claims cases, it's probably domestic, or it's probably general civil.
Really?
We have an agreement with 86th District Court, which is Antrim, Leelanau, and Grand Traverse counties, that every single small claims case filed in any of those 3 counties are ordered to mediation immediately before they ever go before a judge.
Wow.
Grand Traverse County is a relatively populated county. So we get, I think it averages about 20 cases every 2 weeks. For Grand Traverse County, and Antrim and Leelanau, are two a week maybe. But that alone is a huge ask of mediators. We run simultaneous mediations 2 all day long. So we classify them by the Zoom license you're using, so we have a Zoom A and a Zoom B that it pretty much starts at 9 AM and runs until 4 PM. And then we divide it in half so that you don't have to volunteer for an 8-hour shift. You can volunteer for a 4-hour, and we run them every half an hour or every hour. So that takes a lot of volunteer hours to make that happen. I do anticipate that could grow. We cover 6 counties in Canada for our agreement with the Michigan Supreme Court. And we have not yet approached Benzie County with an offer to do their smoke claims that way. This was a pilot program with 86 District Court, but we'll be looking to add the same service in Benzie County soon. For those of you not from this area, Benzie County is going to be a smaller county and add another 3-4 cases a week likely. Wexford and Missaukee counties do not want to take part in the program right now, but they do send us the majority of their lawsuits. And so those are traditional general civil cases that we get. We get, I don't know, 10 a month or something of those. We definitely have enough to keep you all busy. So to give you an idea of our need, last year, this center handled 1,057 cases. We have a volunteer pool of active volunteers is somewhere between 10 and 15. So we need you guys. We will keep you as busy as you want to be. I'm actively recruiting mediators all the time. Our mediator pool took a big hit during COVID. The typical volunteer mediator for this center is a retiree who just has an interest in this. Some are attorneys, some are not. And when we switched, the whole world went digital at COVID. And the majority of our mediations are done by Zoom. Many of them decided to no longer mediate because they didn't want to learn the technology. And I understand, you know, if you know you're an older person and you just don't want to deal with the new technology, that's fine. But it definitely hit our mediator pool hard. We went from having like 50 mediators to having 10 or 15. At all times we have new volunteers in all stages of the training and observation process. Some people are able to complete their observation hours or their observation requirements in, you know, a month or two. Some it takes 6 or 8 months. Either way is fine with us as long as you're working at it. And if you get into this and decide you're really passionate about it, it's fantastic. There's other opportunities to grow your skills more. I mentioned the advanced mediator training. You can also add additional specialties to your training. So we have a program in behavioral health, which is mediating cases between CME, community mental health, and their clients. We have agricultural mediation that is anything related to the agricultural industry, and that is a special program through the USDA. We do special education mediation, which is a statewide and a federal grant. So between school districts and their students who receive special education services and their families. There's more, but that gives you an idea of, you know, if there's a particular area of interest. We also are delving into restorative justice, where we are developing programs that are alternatives to punitive justice systems, where we try to work with the victim and the offender to do what we can to make the victim whole again and undo whatever we can or make right the harm that's been done. So we offer that training. So really the sky's the limit if you, want to dive into this and do as much as possible, or if you want to be casual about it and just mediate here or there, or you're doing it for work and you want to, you know, there are, there are employers that value this and want at least one staff member to be a trained mediator to help with uh, employment disputes and disputes between coworkers and all of that. So it's a good opportunity for a lot of different people if you're willing to make the commitment. Okay, so you all have my email address because I invited you to this meeting. You have my phone number is on our website. Please reach out with additional questions. If you decide you want to pursue this, we would love to have you and we will move forward with getting you started with that new volunteer paperwork and getting you signed up for training and all of that. If you just have other questions, if you have anybody else that you think might be interested in doing this alongside you, please bring them along. We'd be happy to have them too. And if anybody has any additional questions, you can shout out now or if you come up with more later. Go ahead, Paul.
Yes, so if we want to move ahead and join your organization, do we have to email you to confirm that, or what's the next step?
I can email you the paperwork right after this.
Okay,
So you want to go ahead, Paul?
yes, I would like to.
Fantastic. All right. And Alan, I will check with my contacts at the state and see what they have to say. You said you have a master's degree in conflict resolution
Right.
and you have domestic and general civ in Florida, correct?
I did have, I currently live in Wisconsin, but I moved back here about 8 years ago, and I kept up my certifications in Florida until they have to be renewed, and I didn't renew them because I wasn't living in Florida any longer. So,
Okay.
Probably if I were to do family mediation, since I don't know the family court rules in Michigan, so far as custody and things like this, they're probably similar to Florida, but I mean, I would still have to learn, what the Michigan requirements are. Also, in terms of small claims and stuff, do you have standardized documents for agreements, or do people have to draft their own?
So a little bit of both. We provide all of the documents that you'll need. However, they're templates. And so a lot of the legal structure is included. Like the small claims court asks us to include in the agreement that the parties agree to complete a consent judgment for. So we put
Okay.
all that language in there and you check a box. The actual terms of the agreement, we just have a box for you to type out the terms of the agreement.
Yeah, I've been meeting in the Wisconsin Circuit Court small claims area for about 6 or 7 years, so I'm pretty familiar with what kind of documentation you probably need.
So the state of Michigan puts a very definite line between mediation and the courts. So there's certain things we can't do. We can never act as an attorney or give legal advice, and so we cannot complete legal forms for people. So
Sure, and I think that's standard in most, most regulated environments. There's some states that have no regulation, in terms of mediation, but where people have thought it out, usually that's the case.
yes. So even if you were to be an attorney, you have to take off your attorney hat and put on your mediator hat to mediate.
Mhm.
But this sounds great. So, if anyone else makes a decision, has more questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I thank you for your time here today.
Yep,
Thank you.
thanks.